Good afternoon and welcome to Chicago Veterans Virtual Webinars. I'm Kevin Mercez. Today we have Lourdes Fernando, Broker Associate with Keller Williams and U.S. Army veteran, who will help us understand Illinois property taxes and the disabled property tax exemptions for veterans. Again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the introduction, Kevin. A quick disclaimer, I'm not a tax professional, CPA, or attorney. All this information comes directly from the assessor website, client experiences, and personal experiences. With that being said, we're going to get right into the presentation. So today we're going to go over the Illinois property tax exemptions, veteran exemptions, property tax calculations, how to file for the Veterans with Disability exemption, and then open it up for any questions that you might have. Okay, so Illinois has 8 property tax exemptions, 2 of which are exclusive for veterans. I'm going to cover all exemptions as these could be layered, and I'll show you where we can layer those when we talk about the property tax calculations. The first exemption is the homeowner's exemption. This is a $10,000 reduction off of the Equalized Assessed Value. To qualify, you must own or lease the property and show proof that you're responsible for the taxes, but in addition to, you must be a primary resident. For the senior exemption, it is an $8,000 reduction off of the Equalized Assessed Value. You must be 65 years old or older during that tax year. You must be responsible for the property taxes, and this must be your primary resident. Also, senior freeze exemption freezes your Equalized Assessed Value of the property. You must be 75 years old or older in 2019. You must own or lease the property and be responsible for the property taxes. This must be your primary residence as of January 1st, 2018 and January 1st, 2019. Total house income must be under $65,000 in 2018. The home improvement exemption will allow you to increase the property value without increasing the taxes. You can increase the value of the property by $75,000 worth of improvements without increasing the property taxes in 4 years. There are some strict qualifications, so you would need to go to your assessor's website and see exactly what qualifies and what doesn't for this exemption. And there is also a long-time homeowner exemption. This is if you own the property and this was your primary residence from January 1st of 2009 to January 1st, 2019, you must make a household income of less than $100,000 in 2018, and you must have had a significant assessment increase. Persons with disability exemption is a $2,000 reduction off of the Equalized Assessed Value. A disabled person, you must be disabled or become disabled during the tax year. You must own, lease, or have interest in the property and must show proof that you have. You must show proof that you're responsible for property taxes. The property must be your primary residence as of January 1st, 2019, and you must also have a Class 2 Disabled Persons Illinois Identification Card. To get more information about these property taxes, please go to your assessor's webpage. Okay, now we are going to talk about the returning veterans exemption. This is a $5,000 reduction off of the Equalized Assessed Value for each taxable year in which they return. In order to qualify, an Illinois resident who has served as a member of the United States Armed Forces on active duty or state active duty, a member of the Illinois National Guard or U.S. Reserve Forces. the veteran must be returning from active duty in an armed conflict involving the armed forces of the U.S. Also, must own or had legal interest of the property as a primary resident as of January 1st of the tax year, and also must be liable for property taxes. You must provide a DD 214 or orders that state the veteran is returning from conflict. To get more information about that, you can go to your assessor's website. Now we're going to go over the Veterans with Disabilities Exemption. This is a $2,500 reduction off of the Equalized Assessed Value with 30 to 49% VA disability rating. There's a $5,000 reduction off of the Equalized Assessed Value with 50 to 69% VA disability rating. And there's a total exemption of Illinois property taxes if you have a 70 to 100% VA disability rating. To qualify, veterans with a service-connected disability as certified by the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs are eligible for this exemption. Also, an Illinois resident who has served as a member of the United States Armed Forces on active duty or state active duty as a member of the Illinois National Guard or U.S. Reserve Forces that has been honorably discharged. You must own and occupy the property as a primary resident as of January 1st of that tax year. There has been a change in 2018 under the Senate Bill 2306, signed into law on August 14, 2018, that taxes will now be prorated to the day of the qualifying veteran occupied their residence. Okay, you must have a total equalized assessed value of less than $250,000 for the primary resident, excluding the EAV of property used for commercial purposes or if it's being rented out for more than 6 months. And you must also apply for this exemption each year. Okay, so now I'm going to go over the property tax calculation. If you have a VA disability rating between 30 and 49%, and say your property is worth or you are purchasing your property at $300,000, you take the assessed value, which is you take $300,000 and you do times 0.10, which gives you $30,000. You take that by the state equalization factor. For 2019, that is 2.9109. And then that's how you get the equalized assessed value. For this example, the equalized assessed value is $87,327. Then you start to take away your exemptions. So the very first exemption, because this is your primary resident, you do qualify for the homeowner's exemption, that's $10,000, minus the 30 to 49% VA disability rating of $2,500. And then if you have any other exemptions, so if you are a senior, long-term resident, that's where you add where it says other exemptions. And then you come up with the equalized assessed value after reductions from exemptions. And that's how you get $74,827. You times that by your city or village property tax rate. So this varies between Chicago and Des Plaines. So it completely varies. You add whatever the property tax rate is in this section. For Chicago, it's 6.786, and that's for 2019. And then that gives you an estimated taxes of $5,777.77. And then total savings is $169 $1,258.65 for that tax year of 2019. If you have a 50 to 69% tax rating, then you have a savings of $339.30, and that is for the entire tax year. If you have a 70 to 100% VA disability rating, then you have a total property exemption. Okay. Now, to qualify for this exemption, please keep in mind that your equalized assessed value must be under $250,000 or less, and the estimated value is $858,840. So as long as either you purchase the property for less than that, or if it's assessed less than that, then you qualify for this exemption. Okay, so we're going to go on how to file for the veteran with disability exemption. There are 2 forms that you would need to fill out on an annual basis. The first is the Veterans with Disabilities Standard Homeowners Exemption Form, which is the one on the right-hand side, and also a current service-connected disability certification letter from the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs for the tax years of exemption. Okay, so if you are applying for 2019 taxes, you have to make sure that, one, your VA letter is current, up to date, and you have received your rating within that tax year. Okay, first-time applicants must provide a DD-214. One of the following: you must have either a deed, a contract for deed, trust agreement, or a closing disclosure. Okay, so for example, if the veteran, so I'll give you my example. I'm a disabled veteran. My husband's active duty. He's the only one on the mortgage. Just as long as I'm on the deed, then we qualify for this exemption. Okay, we must also have a copy of the state. They're also requiring a copy of a state ID or driver's license with the property address, or anything that proves your residence, that you are a resident of, anything that proves that you are a resident of the. Okay, so we're going to go to the next slide. How to file for the Veterans with Disability Exemption. So when do you file for this exemption? You file between January and March of 2020 for 2019 tax bill. Okay, you file at your assessor's office, and you can file 3 ways. You can file via mail, you can file county's assessor's office, or you can file online if Cook County allows that, or whatever county that you belong to. So after your exemption has processed, now keep in mind this can take a few months. As soon as it processes, the assessor's office is going to send you a letter in the mail, or they'll send you an email, or you can go onto the website to see if your exemption is processed. Once you have proof, that's when you call your lender, your lending institution, and have them remove your escrow portion from your taxes. Okay, and everything that you see in gold, you can click and it will take you to that specific county's tax assessor site. And then on the right-hand side is just an example of Cook County's instructions to file for the disabled veterans exemption. You can either mail it there, or you can visit one of the locations. And there's a phone number usually that you can call if you're having issues with your exemption. Now I'm going to open up for any questions, and I'm going to go through all the question and answers and see if there's anything that I didn't cover, and I'll go ahead and address those right now. So I do see a question here on multi-units. If you qualify if you have a multi-unit. So let me go back to this slide real quick. And where it states that have a total EAV of less, and EAV is equalized assessed value of less than 250,000 for primary residence, excluding the EAV of property used for commercial purposes or rented for more than 6 months. I'm going to pull up the legislation real quick. So I have that here with me, and then I'll read it. I'm going to read this to you. It says, qualified residence means real property, but less any portion of the property that is used for commercial purposes, with an equalized assessed value of less than 250,000. That is the primary residence of the veteran of which a disability. Property rented for more than 6 months is presumed to be used for commercial purposes. So what that means is, but any less portion of the property. So for example, if you are in a multi-unit, you are occupying one unit, then that you're occupying one unit and you're renting out the other unit for more than 6 months, then you just have to pay the taxes for that other unit that is being rented out. Okay, I see a question here. If I co-own the property, can the property still get the exemption? The answer is yes. So for example, if you are on the deed of the property, then you have every right to use your veteran exemption. Okay, so you must, let me go back where it says the qualifications. Okay, so right here where you say one of the following, you must have one of the following: a deed, a contract for deed, a trust agreement, or the closing disclosure. So the closing disclosure is going to have the mortgage information. So if you're not on the mortgage, but you're on the deed, you still qualify for the Veterans with Disability exemption. Are there any other questions? Okay, so I have another question here. If I get the approval letter from the exemption, how does the bank get notified? Great question. So you have to call your bank and make sure it's the correct bank, because VA loans, they get sold off all the time. VA loans and FHA loans. So just make sure you're calling the right institution, and then show them proof. You can either fax in, mail in, or email the representative a copy of your exemption that you don't have to pay property taxes for whatever county, and they will take off the escrow. They would stop escrowing your taxes. You would get whatever is in your escrow account back in a check, and anything that you paid to the county, you would get that back as well. So any overpayments that you've made and you're entitled to this exemption, you would get back. Okay, I have another question. What if they sold the loan to another lender? So that's totally fine. You just call whatever lending institution you have for when your exemption is processed. So for example, we were with Bank A, they sold it to Bank B. Now I have my exemption from the county. I call Bank B and have Bank B remove this from my taxes. Can you post your contact information on the screen again? We may. Okay. So I'm going to go to the very last slide. If you do have any additional questions, I'll be happy to answer those for you. My cell phone is 312-324-4430. And my email address is lfernando@kw.com. Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. Like I said, any additional questions, give me a call or send me an email.